Joining us on the show today, we have a very special guest to discuss this further. Welcome to the show, Mr. M.K. Surana. But before we get into the discussion on these comments, let's first listen in to what US President said on this.
India no longer is going to be buying oil from Russia. That's what I heard. I don't know if that's right or not, but that's a good step. We'll see what happens.
On the sanctions, we have taken note of the sanctions and we are looking into it. On the other question about proposed oil sale, etc., I would say that I have no comments to offer in this particular matter. On our energy sourcing requirements, you are aware of our broad approach that we look at what is there available in the market, what is there on offer, and also what is the prevailing global situation circumstances. Now, on the specific question, I am not aware of the specifics that you mentioned.
Well, next we have my colleague Prakash Pashi, who is joining us with more details on these comments.
Well, the US president has made a statement based on some unverified reports about India pausing the purchase of Russian oil. In fact, in response to a question, he himself acknowledged that he is not sure whether such reports are accurate. At the same time, India has defended its sovereign right to pursue an energy policy based on national interest. The Ministry of External Affairs has not confirmed any such reports suggesting oil marketing companies are pausing the purchase of Russian oil. Along with that, our sources in the oil ministry have informed that they're in constant touch with the oil marketing companies and are closely monitoring the situation. In fact, current developments are being discussed patiently with the oil marketing companies, and they are committed to ensuring India's energy security. At the same time, sources have also confirmed that OMCs will take a decision based on their interest, based on their business interest, and not under any pressure. A very significant development coming in. Along with that, India will purchase oil from wherever it is affordable it is available at affordable prices. They are prepared to navigate any challenges and protect consumers' interest. Along with that, there's no potential concern for the government at this point of time. The sources are informing that as India has already diversified its import basket, importing crude from 40 countries now, and there's no dearth of crude supply in the market. Therefore, there's no potential concern for the government at this point of time. On overall bilateral trade, sources are informing that India will not come under any pressure. The interest of MSMEs, agriculture sector, entrepreneurs, dairy, GM crops will be protected at any cost, and they are committed to conclude the bilateral trade negotiation as early as possible.
Thanks, Prakash, for those details. We are joined on the show by Mr. M.K. Surana, the ex-CMD of HPCL. Welcome to ET Now, sir. First of all, India has diversified its oil importing basket, but is it safe to say that largely the days of cheap Russian oil are over for Indian OMCs?
Yeah, good afternoon, and thanks for having me on the show. In fact, if you go just 2-3 years back, earlier India was not buying much of crude from Russia. We hardly used to buy around 1 to 2% from Russia. After the price cap was put on the Russian oil, after that it started being available at a cheaper rate at discounts, and that discount range between $30 at that point of time, which slowly and gradually has come down to now $2 to $3. So current discounts with Russian oil is around $2 to $3. So to say today that whether the days of cheap oil is over or not over will be not an appropriate thing to say. In fact, the oil companies, when they buy the crude, they evaluate all the types of crude which are available, which includes Russian crude, which includes other crudes also. And based on the economic analysis on month-to-month basis, on a broader scale on yearly basis, and on the more specific month-to-month basis, they put the order for the crude, taking care of terms and spot crudes. So I assume that the oil companies will continue to do that, and if it is economically advantageous for them to buy Russian crude, they should. And as such, I don't think as of today, Russian crude as such is a sanctioned commodity like it was for some of the countries. So the issues are only the punitive economic measures on that related to tariff or related to price cap, etc. So I think the companies will continue to evaluate that from time to time.
Surana, if India does fold under some sort of pressure coming in from the US and it does stop, buying oil from Russia, what is the kind of impact that you are seeing on, let's say, the economy at large, but OMCs and then consumers as well?
As far as India is concerned, let's say we buy annually, we consume around 5 million barrels a day of crude, and right now around 35% of the crude which we are buying from Russia. And let's assume there is a discount of around $2. So it makes a difference around 1 billion to 2 billion on the yearly basis if that Russian oil is not available, which is hardly anything on the overall economy of, let's say, $4 trillion. So I don't see any direct significant impact on our economy just if at all, we do not buy Russian crude. But the second part is whether it will be overall in the interest that the Russian crude barrels goes out of the global scenario. So right now, Russia let's produce around 9.5 million barrels a day, and out of that, almost 4.5 million barrels of crude oil is being exported. Around 4 million through sea route, otherwise through pipeline routes. Now, if 4 million barrels have to go out of the market, it will have an impact on the overall crude prices, which will impact all the countries, including US, including India, etc. But the second question is, just because if India stops to buy Russian oil, will the Russian barrels will not come into the market? The China continues to procure them, and if it is advantageous, they may procure more also. So as far as Russian oil is not completely out of the global oil scenario, I don't see that it will make significant impact. But as far as India is concerned, the issue is slightly become a bit more broad-based because the last statements of President Trump included not only the tariffs, but also included the defense purchases from Russia, the energy purchases from Russia, the non-economic barriers. Also, he mentioned something to do with BRICS. So I think that the total discussion is not only just related to Russian oil or the tariffs, but it is slightly more broad-based. And India will need to see its larger national interest, and I'm sure that that's what they will do.
Did allude to India importing oil from Russia. How do you view these comments? Is it the trader Trump talking, or is he, is it just rhetoric as Putin refuses to put an end to the war? And is it an attempt to drive a wedge between India and Russia relations? Do you view it like that?
Possible, because most of the statements which we have seen, they are more targeted to put Russia under pressure. So one of the thing is to try to stop the revenue resources for Russia, and that's why I put Russia under pressure to support his ultimatum of 10 days to stop the Ukraine war. So while he keeps on saying that India is a friend, but India is becoming collateral in the process, I'm not very sure that there will definitely be something like that. The Indian companies start buying. Indian companies will always have a contingency plan prepared, and which should be done also. But I think it is not a dictum or a straight case that stopped or not stopped. So economic analysis will always prevail. And as I mentioned, that right now the Russian crude is not under sanction commodity as such. So what is available in the market, which is economical for the companies, and that depends on their own technical analysis, economic analysis, the configuration of their refineries, and the overall gross product value of the food and the prices that will determine their purchases on Russian crude as of today.
Here on, Mr. Surana, there are a couple of ways that this could unfold. Can you take us through what happens to the prices of crude in either of these scenarios?
So the question is that as of today, the oil market is surplus because of the demand concerns, because of the accelerated rollback of the voluntary production cuts which OPEC had taken in last 4 or 5 months, and also that there are production from some other countries, and there is surplus capability available with some of the countries which they were not able to produce because of the OPEC plus voluntary cuts. So I do not see there is any demand, any supply problems on the crude oil, as far as some of the Russian crude oils are flowing in the market. Now, based on the news flow, there will be some volatility which may make the crude prices move between the range of $70 to $80, which otherwise would have been moving in $65 to $70. But if at all, which I see a very, very little possibility, if all the Russian crude barrels were to go out of the market, then it may have some impact on the overall crude prices. But I think in all possibilities, the impact is not going to be as significant as we think, as far as some of the Russian barrels are flowing in the overall supply, crude oil supply chain.